Hi friends, welcome to the Homestead. I'm so glad you dropped by today. Grab yourself a drink and let's see what we can get into today. So here's what we got going on today. Before we left, I had to pick all the tomatoes. We were going to have a frost a day or two before. I picked all of those that were left on my vines. They were all green, but as you can see, they are beginning to turn. So we've got to deal with those. I may try to get some green tomato slices in the freezer. I don't know yet. And this is part of what's left over from our potato harvest. You can see that they are sprouting, and there's two different kinds, maybe even three different kinds of potatoes in there. We've got this very large silver basket, and we've got two boxes downstairs, and we've got a little experiment coming up soon that we're going to plant some and see if we can overwinter them and see what happens there. So moving along, you can see I've got eggs, and I've got eggs, lots and lots of eggs that I've got to deal with. We're going to be making some pickled eggs and some deviled eggs. My husband loves those. And then you can see I've got some peppers in here. Some of them you can see are just a little past their prime, so we've got to deal with all of that. We've got a basket of onions back there and a basket of apples that we've got to deal with, and then there's our scrap bucket. So you can see we've got a lot to deal with, and we've got pumpkins. So here's the pumpkins that I've got to deal with. I wish I could tell you that I grew these, but alas, that's not the case. I've just got them in here in my upstairs living room on a sheet. There actually was about 12 more than this of the orange ones, but I've already processed those. So the rest of these have got to be processed and the seeds taken out and either roasted or something done with. And here's the two boxes of potatoes that I mentioned in just a few minutes ago, because we've got all these to plant for an experiment that I'm trying to see if we can overwinter them and get maybe an earlier harvest. As you can see, this box is also potatoes. You can't tell that, but you can tell that they are all individually wrapped. I am trying another experiment. I'm all about trying some new things. Since we have such a temperate climate, I like to try new things with our garden. And so these are actually going to see if I can overwinter them, not in the ground, but in my cellar, to see how that works and how they hold up. So we've got all of these. We got a lot to do in the next day or two here on the homestead. So I think we need to get going. So here we are in the cellar. When we built the cellar years ago, my husband was so sweet, and he left me a little, almost like the size of a smaller raised bed. He left it just as dirt. And I've been able to keep different things here in the past. Ideally, it would be dug down and things could be placed down in the ground, but as you can see, there's pumpkin seeds everywhere, because sometimes when you are on a homestead, life just gets busy, and sometimes I am of the mindset, out of sight, out of mind. But here's my box of potatoes. I'm going to set them down, and as I said, ideally it would be dug down into the earth just a little bit deeper so that it would get the coolness of the earth, but we're going to try it like this first. That's on digging down and getting it down deeper into the ground where it would just be open and I could just set things down in there. Is on my list of things to do, but it just hasn't happened yet. So we're going to leave those, and we'll check on them periodically to see how they're doing. So task number 1, getting the potatoes in the cellar, is done. Number 2 set of potatoes, the set that needs to be planted, actually can't be planted today because today's not a good planting day. I try to plant by the sign of the moon, and I use an almanac to check that out. And actually the best planting days are going to be next week. So I have 4 days next week where my husband and he's going to break the ground up for me, and he's going to lay it off for me, and then I'm going to go in and plant the potatoes and let them see how they overwinter. Okay, so task number 3 is the peppers, and I wanted to come out to the garden before I started that to see if there were any remaining ones left on the bush. And you can see this is our tomato garden, and you can see we still haven't put it to bed yet. We've got wires to take down, panels to put away, posts to dig up. The chickens have done a great job breaking down the cardboard that I had down as weed block this summer. And you can see here is our last pepper plant. We had the tarp covered over it a week or so ago when we had our first frost, but while we were gone, of course, the frost got it. So today what I want to do is gather the last of the peppers that are on this vine and get it ready to end its production. It has been so prolific for us. It's done a great job. We've enjoyed peppers all season long. There's just a few left to get, not many. Thank you, pepper plant. This one has been a great one. My husband loves hot peppers. I love them a little bit. I like a little bit of hot, but my husband absolutely loves it. So this was his pepper plant. And I think we may have gotten all of them. So I always like to start with a good knife and a knife sharpener. I always like to run these are Rata knives, and I really love them. And I love to go through and just give it 4 or 5 swipes to the sharpener, and then I've got a fresh knife to start with. So I've also got my basket of peppers, got my trash that's going out to the chickens, and so let's get started today. Now, obviously, some of these are hot peppers. I've got jalapenos, and then I've got these that are a banana pepper. They are not hot. These are a sweet banana pepper. And when you're working with peppers, it is recommended that you use some gloves. And I've done it with gloves, but I've done it without gloves. I've also found that when I do this without gloves, when I'm washing my hands, if I just wipe them across the stainless steel faucet that I've got, that usually takes away most of the capsaicin, which is what makes the peppers hot. So today I'm choosing not to wear gloves. We'll see if I regret that choice a little later on today. All right, so I've got all the hot peppers out that I want to take care of, and I'm just going to set the basket out of the way. And generally what I do is just snip off the end, snip off the bottom, and then just set it aside, because we're actually going to process these in my food processor. That is the handiest little tool that I have. It's my food processor. It is definitely a workhorse for my kitchen. I use it a lot. I use it when I am preparing all kinds of different things, as you'll see as we go through. But peppers are a great way, and I don't think I can save much on that one, so I'm just going to give it to the chickens. My chickens like it. An old wives' tale is that chickens that eat peppers, hot peppers, will continue to lay eggs in the wintertime. I've tried that, but I don't find that to be true. Obviously, it is late November. It's just after Thanksgiving, and the days have become shorter, and my chickens have definitely slowed down on their egg production. Even though I do have a lot of peppers, I don't like the look of that one, so it's going too. So I do have a lot of eggs to process, but these are eggs that I've been collecting over a couple of weeks, and I've actually been leaving them on the counter for a specific purpose. We're going to pickle some of those eggs, and we're going to, my husband and I both like pickled eggs, and so I've been experimenting this year because we had such an abundance of eggs that I had to hunt something to do with them. So I've done all kinds of things this year. I've done some water glassing, and I'll show you about that another time. I have pickled some. I have made deviled eggs. I have cooked eggs for days and days and days. The only thing I haven't done that I wanted to do this year was to make homemade pasta. I never could find a pasta roller that I was happy with. I really wanted one that would go with my KitchenAid, but I didn't want to drop that kind of money for it. So that's the one thing I haven't done yet. Hopefully next year, or maybe this winter if I get one for Christmas. Hint, that might be something that I could use. All right, so now that I have all of these, I've chopped the ends off of all of them, then I'm gonna go ahead and just get my food processor and we're gonna chop those up. So we're now ready to process the peppers, and I've got out my food processor, my food chopper. And as I said, this is a workhorse, but now this one is not new to me. I found this one, I think I paid like $4 for it at a yard sale. My husband and I always go on the 400-mile yard sale, and I bought this in Kentucky because I had thought about getting one, and I didn't know I didn't want to spend the money on it to buy a new one. So I actually found this one, and I've had this thing about 10 years, and I have used this thing weekly. So we're going to take all the peppers and we're going to put them in. I even went ahead and capped off and took the ends off these sweet banana peppers because I'm just going to chop them up in here too. And we're going to put all of these in here and we're going to process all of them. So we're going to put the cap on, and I start by just basically pulsing, kind of getting both up. And then I'm going to give it a turn. Now, I wanted to really fine chop on this, so I let this chop for just about 15-20 seconds. And you can see how fine of a chop that we have here. And wow, the capsaicin is strong. Okay, so now I've gotten out a cookie sheet and I've got some wax paper. I'm out of parchment paper, so I'm using wax paper. You can use either. I do prefer parchment paper. And I'm just going to put it down in here, and I'm going to take the peppers and I'm going to go get a spatula. And I'm just going to, first of all, take out the blade. Get everything off that I can. Ooh, these peppers are strong. And then I just want to take it and I want to put it all on the pan. Now, by putting it on the cookie pan, I could just dump it in a bag and I could put it in the freezer like that. But I find that when, I freeze it like that, that it comes into a nice glob and it's just a pain to get off. And if I do it this way, it's not quite so globby. I know that's not a word, but humor me. So here it is. I got a pile. I've got most of it out of the chopping bowl. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of spread it out. I want a really thin layer. I want to just spread it out all over the pan as thinly as I can. You're going to have some places that it's a little bit lumpy, but you can break those up after it flash freezes. So with this, then I'm going to go to my deep freeze with this. Now, this won't fit in my refrigerator freezer, so I will go outside to the outside freezer and I will flash freeze this for about 30 minutes or so. And then I'll bring it in and we'll bag it up and show you how I keep it in the freezer. Friends, it's the afternoon of the next day. I told you, I don't know if you know me, sometimes out of sight is out of mind. And yesterday I got busy and I just didn't get back to the jalapenos, but today's a new day and we're ready to get these out of the freezer because I need this tray for something else that we're going to work on today. All right, so you can see from the tray, they're all frozen. They've been out of the freezer for just a minute or two as I gathered up my bag. So what I'm simply going to do is to take them and just kind of roll them up. And I'm going to use the paper to kind of crush them up and separate the pieces. And then I'm going to, they crush really good and crush really easily. So then this is how I keep them in the freezer. It's just a freezer bag. I've got it labeled jalapenos. And I'm telling you, these that I just did yesterday are super hot. They will almost take your breath. mess, making a mess here. I left the top open. So what I do is I just store them in a freezer bag and throw them in the freezer. And when I need a handful for cornbread or pizza or whatever I want to put it in, I just go and grab a handful or a spoonful, cupful, however much I need. And I just throw them back in the freezer when I'm done. So I'm going to clean up my mess here and add these to the bag. Now, one thing I don't like about using wax paper here, and I don't know if you can see it, is that when you start to pick it up, if you're not very careful, it's going to tear. So that's why I was bringing it here. And I'm just going to put this down in there. Of course, it's going to make a little bit of a mess, but nothing we can't wipe up. And I'm going to take this and clean up my mess and get those back in the freezer so that they are ready whenever I need them. So friends, that's it for what we've done in the Homestead kitchen today. We were able to get a little bit accomplished yesterday and today. We were able to get some potatoes down in storage for that experiment in our cellar. We were able to get all the potatoes together, got those ready so that we can plant those next week on the good planting days, and we took care of the peppers as well. Those are now chopped up in my freezer, have been flash frozen, and they're ready to use. So we still have the eggs and we still have the pumpkins to deal with. And I look forward to seeing you soon as we work and process through those. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this content to be helpful or you enjoyed it, just give me a thumbs up. The best thing you can do is share this on your social media, and I will see you in our next video. Bye.